Okay, so it is me, NBT SKY, with another numerology report. Now, this report is just something I just came across. It's called the Havana syndrome, right? So I had to look it up a little bit. So science is stating that the Havana syndrome is due to direct radio frequency energies that are directed at the individuals who suffer from this thing called the Havana syndrome, right? So I decided I was going to look into it a little bit and look at some of the symptoms that's involved. So it's loud sounds, pressure in the head, cognitive problems, insomnia, headaches, nausea, unsteady gaits like your loss of balance, dizziness, and visual disturbances. So therefore, when we look into the Havana syndrome and we're looking at the numbers, you're looking at this 20 and 2, this moon energy. You're also looking at syndrome, which, if we're looking at this part, we got Mercury going on right here. And overall, in the higher and medium frequencies, you have Uranus and Neptune. Now, this made me kind of look at it a little bit more when looking at just at the syndrome, right? And you look at the moon. I'm looking at the moon in the energy of Cancer because it's coming down in the regular frequency, not the 11 and 2. So you look at that, you talk about chest, breast, stomach, uterus, diaphragm, upper alimentary systems. Mind you, if somebody is being targeted by a direct radio frequency, then it's going to affect a whole lot of systems in the body anyway, right? Now, when we get into Mercury, which is, in Gemini, you're looking at arms, shoulders, hands, lungs, nerves, the nervous system, right? And then when you get into Uranus and Neptune energy, you're looking at Aquarius and Pisces. These are the zodiacs that kind of that rule that's under these planets. So looking at Aquarius, right? You got the lower legs, calves, ankles, electrical impulses of the nerves, the circulatory system. And then in the Pisces, you have feet, all bodily fluids, and the lymphatic system. So if you get to looking at it, you have the imbalance. It shows up. You have the dizziness and the vertigo with the legs. In Aquarius, you have the visual disturbances, and when you're dealing with the moon, you can look at it as a visual disturbance, or not being able to see clear or feel clear, or think in a clear manner. Now, the main areas, which is the loud sounds, pressure in the head, the cognitive problems, insomnia, and headaches, right? Nowhere in here did the energy of Aries come up, but Aries rules the head, right? You have the head, face, eyes, blood, brain, and muscular system. So it led me to think a little bit further. So the question became, because the syndrome, it has a name. They say it's directed radio frequencies that take place, right? And they say that this is something that, was first reported from the U.S. and Canadian embassy staff out in Havana, Cuba. So, and they say, oh, well, we don't know how this even took place, or where it's coming from, or who's doing it, So, and this happened to, like I said, U.S. and Canadian embassy staff that was stationed over there in Havana. So, therefore, I decided to look up what's going on in Havana, Cuba. Of course, Havana's still going to come down in the 2. Cuba comes down in the 9, right? And we're talking about Pluto. We're talking about Pluto energy in Scorpio. And then you have this high frequency letting 11 and 2. Now, we're looking at the overall frequency here, and then you throw this 2 in here. This really, I don't see Cuba actually even really knowing. I don't see them knowing, even though they might have, they might try to figure it out. I don't see them knowing it though. The thing that's interesting here is this moon energy that comes in, and when you're talking about the in Cancer, we talk about if we talking about some tarot cards, we'll just throw the Chariot in there, controlling two sides of a situation. But it also could be discussion of travel, and these people obviously had to travel to Havana, Cuba. I really don't think that they knew it. They might have had a little somebody running their mouth in that actual environment that may have made it a little bit easier, whether they knew it or not. But I don't really think they were capable or are capable of actually doing it. So therefore, I decided, let me look at Aries, ruled by Mars. This is a god of war, kind of energy, war, power, all of that. Now, Russia breaks down. I look into Russia. Russia breaks down into Venus, right? Let's get it clear. I'm looking for this Aries energy that comes up because the target is really, the people that complained about it was all in the headspace. So anyway, we look at, Russia. Russia comes up in Taurus, but it also comes up in Libra because it has Venus. If it's by itself, it could be Empress. And we already know Russia is a wealthy country. And, they feel like they stand on higher principles of how they deal with situations. But they feel like they are the higher source. Now, the thing that's interesting is Taurus, it rules the neck area. Now, when you're dealing with the Libra energy, you talk about justice and balance and all that, which Russia says they push that a lot, right? But you're still dealing with the lower back, the skin, external sex organs, bladder, all of that. These are all areas that can be affected by having Havana syndrome, especially if you have some type of radiation targeted on you, right? So, therefore, I go here and I find an 8 in China. And now when you're talking about the 8, you talk about the tower, you talk about all falls down, the power to actually destroy something. So, you talk about that, and like I told you, this rules the head. Is China the type of energy that, have that type of power and would utilize that power even outside of their own range? Who knows, right? Anyway, we found these 8s. So in military, the 8 is going to always come up. It's showing you, there's a military energy, war. So we have to cross it out. We already looked at China. We know China comes in the 8, so we're going to cross that out. I'm kind of doing a process of elimination. All right. We didn't get to the end. We didn't get to over here yet, but I'm just letting you know. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you. We're going to cross it out. We're going to just do process of elimination and see, who would most likely be able to pull this off and nobody knows about it, right? So we're going to just take these common 8s out of here real fast. All right. Now, we're looking at Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., that breaks down into Uranus and Neptune also, right? You got this hangman, fool energy, seeing things from a different perspective, stagnation, new starts, or starting a new situation, or, trying to figure out a new situation with a warning, right? Now, did I talk to you about the Uranus? Yeah, because they got the fool and hangman also. Alrighty. What you see right here in the Havana syndrome. Now, when you're dealing with Saturn, you're dealing with the world power. It's funny because Saturn and the major economists come up as the world. So, they have America, the United States, Washington, they need to know what's going on all around the world as far as Washington's concerned. And I'm sure China feel the same way, Russia feel the same way, and every other country feel the same way. I need to have the one up on information on everything and everything not moving and everything that is moving, especially when you have something like this going on. And nobody seems to have the answer of where did it come from and who did it, right? So when we get to looking at this in the frequency, we have this 11 and 2 in a high frequency, and then we have Saturn that still kind of matches this energy. Now, the thing that's interesting is, Washington is always going to be looked at as the place where all the secrets take place and the unknowns take place and nobody knows what's going on take place, but they know everything that's going on. So, and then for them to have that world power, and it comes up in the numbers like all around the world. So now let's look at the military intelligence, because I couldn't come up with any other thing to look at. So we got Russia that comes in as 11-2. All right, so this lets you know that even if Russia didn't have anything to do with it, they kind of got an idea of how it works and who's possibly capable of pulling this off. Now, when you get into the high frequencies and medium frequencies, they also come up straight up in Mars energy, which lets you know that they have probably a high probability of doing this, because you gotta kill a head to get to the body kind of thing. We want to control, rule, we want information, we want to know what's going on, we want to break down certain people. Remember, this is staff that's coming from the United States and Canada, and they stationed somewhere else. So therefore, they're definitely the ones that's being targeted, whether it's coming from within or without. All of them have the capability. China, in their military, they do not land in Mars, but they naturally come in as Mars energy, and they know how to play with technology also. Everybody knows that. Don't forget that, everybody was running to space at one point. That was Russia, China, the United States. Everybody was running up there to the moon trying to figure it out. I didn't get to look into that, but it would be interesting to know what it was that they was up there trying to figure out. Anyway, this brings you into this Virgo energy, right? When you get over here in this Mercury, the magician, the ability to manipulate. And this is what this Havana syndrome kind of does, but it's doing it to groups of people. It's manipulating the way they see, the way they think, the way they feel, their health, their mood, their ability to function in society and around their families, causing all kinds of issues. That's what this does, but it also would give them some level of control over, how to get people out of the way, how to get information without people knowing that they're getting the information, kind of thing. Or preventing information from being moved around between systems or between countries, or people who have a lot of information they don't want it to get out, kind of thing. China's petty like that. They'll do something like that. China's petty like that. Now, when we get into this United States, now the United States comes, military intelligence comes down in the sun all the way across the board. So I had to look at this a little bit different. And then you see the 7 comes up here, because they all the same. So we could kind of, to be fair, I can exit out when I talk about this 7, right? Because we talk about the intelligence. So they all going to be the same thing. So therefore, we're looking at strength. When you're looking at the sun, you're looking at Leo, you're looking at strength, you talk about will and power. That's all in the United States name right there. Then you have this Sagittarius, the will, you're talking about the good fortune, but also dealing with a cycle of events that takes place. And then you still have that 8 that comes down naturally, and that all hell can break loose at any given moment. Back to the Fool and the Hangman, which still comes back up there, letting you know that it's always going to be this push for new starts, always going to be warnings, always going to be a sense of, not being so oblivious, or not pushing, being oblivious. And then you have the Hangman, the sacrifice that has to be made for the country to stay great. They're looking at things different. They're being stagnated to kind of build up, on a different level, a little bit different from everybody else. At the end of the day, if you ask me, looking at this numerology report, most likely this would have been a China move, if you ask me. That's my personal opinion, based off of the numbers, and finding the interesting aspect of the Havana syndrome, and none of the numbers falling in the area where people are saying they are targeted with the Havana syndrome. Me personally, I don't like to point fingers, and I'm not trying to, this is just a numerology report. Do they really have an answer to who's really the cause? I would personally say that if we're gonna get an answer anytime soon to it, Washington probably would know more than anybody else, and so would Russia. China is not coming up in 11-2 either. They're not giving up no secrets. it's just not gonna happen, or either they going for it, they not going for it. They know who it is. Russia probably know China has something to do with it, and so do Russia, and so do Washington. But listen, this is a numerology report, so please don't get it twisted. This is just how I'm seeing it in numbers, and unfortunately, they say they have no real cure or excuse for it. But if people do experience that, this is a destruction of the mind for these people that's dealing with the situation. That's why you have Mars, you have Aries that rules ahead, and then you have the major arcana, the Tower, that falls under there. Lets you know this is, I will destroy the minds of people that I'm trying to control, or I don't want to move information, I don't want to have information, I don't want in a particular place no more, kind of thing. That's the kind of energy it is, and that's the way it matches at. Anyway, it is me, NBT Sky. You already know. Deuces.